about this gospel story is the idea of welcome, hospitality, the welcoming especially of the stranger. Jesus, it said, went around from village to village. He also called the 12 apostles and sent them out 2 by 2, just like you have on your bulletin cover. That's why there's a 2 by 2 on the cover of your bulletin today. He gave them his authority and power. They could cast out impure spirits. They could heal. They could proclaim the good news of God, that the kingdom of God was coming near, and that God was ready to save and heal and redeem all people from sin and sickness and separation, from violence and victimization, from division and darkness, destruction and death. That was, and still is, the good news, the gospel of our Lord. Anyway, Jesus sent them out 2 by 2, and he did it in a very particular way. He said, take nothing for the journey except the staff. No bread, no bag, no money, no extra shirt. Now, why would he say that? Did he want them to be able to save on airline baggage fees? Please, bring no carry-ons. Bring only carry-ons. No checked baggage, please. Or maybe they had bad backs and they had trouble carrying a lot of stuff. Yeah? Nah, these are young guys. They can carry stuff. It's not that. Perhaps he wanted them to feel kind of, to come into town poor and not looking presumptuous. That's possible. Keep it simple. Travel light. But I think the real reason was so that they would be dependent on the hospitality of people in the places where they went. Don't stay with family, he's saying. Don't find your friend. Don't go on Facebook and see who's in that town and go and do that. But, again, stay at whatever house welcomes you, he says. Don't upgrade. If you're in one place, he says, stay in that place until you leave that town. Again, because they were supposed to rely on the kindness, the welcome, the hospitality of the strangers that they encountered. So I have personal experience of this, very recent personal experience, having just come from Houston, Texas, for the National Youth Gathering. Houston being the 4th largest city in the country. It is huge. Laid out big too, all over the place. It's also the most diverse city in the country. The pretty nice hotel that we were staying at was in what's called the Galleria area. And we were surrounded by these South Asian restaurants and grocery stores. I think Pakistanis and Indians mostly. So we rented a minivan because the actual gathering itself was about 10 miles from where we had to stay in a hotel. So I had to drive us all over the place. And the highways were like roller coasters out there. If you've ever been, things are intertwined like this. And it's, we would look at a couple of them, they seemed to they're still building them, so they were hanging off like ramps. So I was like, hey guys, are we tempted to, shoot the ramp and go on the other side? Don't worry, parents. I see a parent there worried about how fast it was out there. We never did that. But you would drive on the highways. There was 4, 5, 6 lanes. Sometimes a lot of traffic, sometimes not so much. Thank God for Siri. The voice on the phone that could tell me where to go. That was always a good thing. The phone directions lady. But really, I got to tell you, it really wasn't that bad. It was kind of fun, actually. I think, first of all, because it's a city made for cars. It's also the fastest growing city in America. So it's made to really accommodate lots of new people. Lots of visitors, lots of people moving in, lots of strangers, people coming in for work. And I think they've really done a good job of laying out the city pretty well. It's not that hard to get around. Lots of good signage, good turn lanes, stuff like that. But I would say the thing that surprised me the most was how friendly Houston was. Really. Even the drivers, there was very little honking. And here's the interesting thing. When you stopped at a lot of the intersections, there was almost always a guy or two there ready to clean your windshields. Now, I visited other cities before. I've had this happen. And a lot of times it's really annoying because they'll come up to you, they'll start cleaning even before you ask for it. And then you're stuck either trying to get them out of the way or you end up paying for something that you didn't ask to have done. But these folks were different. Whereas a lot of people in the cities look kind of miserable doing this too. And let me tell you, Houston, 95 degrees, 80, 90% humidity. It was not easy to be out in that heat. These guys looked kind of happy. I mean, were very polite. It was sort of like they loved their jobs. They would put on a little show and kind of dance around with the sticks and all that. And they would ask you through gestures, because your window's all sealed up. You're in the nice pool, right? The windows were sealed. They'd ask you through gestures. And if you said no, they bowed and went on to the next car to see if it would happen. It was kind of cool. Of course, they were foreign-looking. Some of them looked Mexican, others hard to say where they were from. They did the same kind of thing at the corner of 3rd and Iron Street where we live, and they were out there doing, they would look different than most of us. And maybe even a little scary if somebody was out there doing that. But not in Houston. Wherever we went, people were amazingly friendly. And I have been to a lot of cities. I have never seen anything like this. It made you feel good, valued. Most of all, it made us feel welcomed. And I know for a fact it wasn't just because we were like Lutherans or just, because we had young people with us or we were visitors. I think people, they're just friendly. They're kind of used to having people come in all the time. And they're kind of open. They didn't seem very judgmental about folks. They cleaned all kinds of windows and greeted all kinds of people. They were hospitable. I think that's their culture. And what's interesting to me as I encounter this text today is it is a very similar culture that was in the Middle East in the time of Jesus. Hospitality was the #1 virtue in the Jewish and Arab communities of that day. You were supposed to treat visitors, travelers, even complete strangers with the highest respect and hospitality. You gave them the very best room in your house to sleep in. You gave them the best food that you could get your hands on. You gave them gifts and showered them with care and attention. You were to treat guests and visitors better than you treated family or close friends, better than you treated yourself. So, it's actually kind of weird that Jesus would tell those 2x2 disciples, if any place will not welcome or listen to you, leave that place and shake the dust of your feet off as testimony against it. Because people not being welcome, that's just not what happened in that culture. I mean, it didn't matter if you came into town as a stranger and you acted rude while you were there, or you were smelly, or you were unpleasant, or you were ungrateful. And in fact, the way it worked is, even if you broke a law, hospitality came first. I'm sure if you came in town with a sword and went killing people, that might be different. That's an invasion. But if you showed up and you broke a law of that community, but you were a visitor or a stranger, kindness and courtesy, welcomeness came first. Justice came second. So I'm wondering, as I read this, how bad did these disciples have to be treated as so unwelcome or so unworthy that some people, maybe not all of them, but some people would not even listen to them. I mean, look at what they were actually doing, right? They were driving out demons. They were healing the sick. They were proclaiming the good news of God's kingdom coming to earth, and all will be welcome and loved and invited to eat and drink together and to be their true selves. But maybe that was it. Maybe the welcome was fine for them as long as you didn't claim a place or authority or preach a message that we, them, as permanent residents of that town, were uncomfortable with. They'd say, you could be our guest, you could be a traveler, you could be a tourist maybe, someone just passing through. But if you stay, and if you try to change things around here, try to become our equals, or even, God forbid, point out where our welcome wears a little thin, or where our fears of strangers and those who are different might be lurking in the dark places of our hearts, just beneath our image of ourselves as kind and good and accepting of all people. If you're going to be like that and try to hang out here and change us and be here forever, well, there are limits to our welcome. We cannot let you have that kind of place among us, some of these people felt. That kind of equality and freedom, that kind of authority, if you're going to be like that, you should just move on. You should go back to where you came from. This is what Jesus needed to prepare his disciples to encounter as they went out into those other towns, to proclaim his good news and do his good works. And why did Jesus have to tell them that? Why did he have to do that? Because look at what happened to him in the 6 verses right before the part I'm talking about. It's right there in your text, verse 1 through 6, in this gospel story. Jesus is traveling he was going from place to place with his disciples. The previous couple of days, he had just been in a town as a stranger, and he had healed a foreign woman who had been bleeding for 17 years. If you were here last week, you heard Pastor Allison preach on that very story from Mark 5. At that same place where he healed this foreign woman, he also healed and brought back to life a dead girl. So you know what? His reputation in that whole area must have been great. He was on his way to becoming Jesus Christ, superstar. Right? And then what happens? He travels to his own hometown of Nazareth. And instead of getting a hero's welcome, he gets completely rejected. Who does he think he is, they say. I mean, how dare he come back claiming to know better, to do better than us? You know, I heard he helped out some foreign woman over there. And he hangs out and heals just about anybody. He even loves sinners, the weirdos, the rejects, even the criminals. If you travel, Jesus, with that kind of person, that kind of people, if you accept them, then you will go against God, they're thinking. Besides, you know what? Some of them are saying, you know, we know him. He's just a carpenter. That's a real low-rent job in their community. He's a day laborer. He's not what he claims to be, this rabbi thing. We know him. He's just a regular Joe. And I also know, if you haven't been around for a while, he's the son of Mary. And you know, she was pregnant before she was married. And it wasn't to the guy she was engaged to, Joseph. You know what that makes Jesus? Illegitimate. That's what they mean in that story right there. Just flies by us. And we think Mary's great, right? Mary's great. But when they call him son of Mary instead of son of Joseph, what they're saying is illegitimate son. So he himself is being insulted here, pretty clearly. And it says, Jesus was amazed by these people. his own people because of what the text says as their lack of faith. He's not stunned because they're insulting him. He's not stunned because they reject him. He's stunned because whatever they're feeling, their lack of faith means, and I think by that he means that everything that they should believe in, everything that God and their faith and Scripture has ever been teaching them throughout their lives, things like to love your neighbor, to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with their God, to welcome the stranger, it's all over Scripture. To judge not, lest ye be judged. All of that, these folks have set aside because this local boy, Jesus, dares to come back to his home church and share this kind of radical love and inclusion and care for people. And the bottom line in this story is even Jesus gets stopped. Even God, the Son of God, can't do good work in this town when the people in that place, even people who see themselves as loving and friendly, decide to act and believe that it is better to reject, to ignore, to run away or turn away from the kind of love and grace and forgiveness and welcome that God calls us all to do and to share. This is an old, old story. Maybe it has nothing to do with our day and our age. And maybe as well, Lehighton and Nazareth have nothing in common. I cannot be here to judge. Why? Because I know I can be part of the problem. So all I can say is, may God grant us all ears to hear even the difficult messages, hearts to change, and whole